Today, we become legends.
Right, it's tier list time again. This time we're going to be doing the toxicity of the players that play certain gods. So basically, if you see these gods in your lobby, what is the chance that they're going to be incredibly toxic or the chance that they're going to be incredibly helpful? This ranges from bail on the lobby at the top to actively prevents toxicity at the bottom. In the middle we have prepare for some BM, almost certainly going to be BM in some kind of way. Just make sure you don't lose, the type of players that are going to BM if you're losing, but if you're winning they're not really going to care. Neither toxic nor helpful are just the players that are pretty neutral, often they're very quiet, they don't really do anything. Always stays chill, is just keeps calm, doesn't really get involved in any kind of toxicity or anything, doesn't promote it, and then actively prevents toxicity is the people that genuinely try and calm people down, because there are a few of those around. So let's just jump in with Achilles. For me, I feel like Achilles is just in the middle. I don't really think Achilles players are super toxic, to be completely honest with you. But they're not that helpful either. I would maybe put them here, but to be honest, I don't find Achilles players super toxic. Agni players, I think I have to say, always stays chill. I don't really find any Agni players in my experience that end up getting super toxic, even if you're losing. Agni players are just generally pretty chill. AMC players, they're up here somewhere. I feel like maybe I'll go with this one, but they could even be one higher and prepare for some BM, to be honest. If an AMC player gets caught out of position because he has low mobility, he will blame his teammates 100%. No question about it. AMC players, generally more toxic than most, I would say. Also, before we get really into this, I'm not trying to offend you or your main. I'm not trying to say if you made this god, you are toxic, or if you made this god, you're not toxic. This is just my general experience that I've had with certain players over playing this game for 3,000 hours or so. So, just my general experiences. I'm not trying to specifically shit on certain people, this is just a generalization for fun. Artwash players, it's between bail on the lobby and prepare for some BM. We'll put him here for now though. I think there's probably more toxic players than Artwash, but I find a lot of toxic Artwashes. Similar to AMC, they're low mobility, they'll step out of position and die, and they'll blame the team for it 100% of the time. Artwash players, kind of toxic. Armor players, probably here. Could also be here, to be completely honest with you. Maybe I'm biased because I'm an armor player myself, but I very rarely find armor players being toxic, to be completely honest with you. It kind of fits with her design also. She's very calm, calculated, doesn't respond with anger and things like that. And her players are super toxic, dude. Maybe even he's one of these two. I think we'll put him here for now, but maybe I'll move him down. I just find her players massively toxic. I think in general ADCs are going to be higher up because ADC players in general I find to be some of the most toxic people in this game. Anher, maybe we'll put him here for now. I find a lot of toxic Anher players though for sure. Ao Kuang. You don't really see many Ao Kuangs in general, to be completely honest with you. I wouldn't say he's more toxic than the average, to be honest. I think I'd probably put him here. Apollo players, insanely toxic. All they do is just split push and ignore the team and say they're all over, and they never do. ADCs in general, like I said, typically the most toxic players in my experience, but Apollo, one of the more toxic ADCs, he has to be up here. Anubis players, also pretty toxic. Not really much explanation needed here. A lot of Anubis players are bad at the game, that's just a fact. A lot of new players play him and they're not very good, and then they blame their team for it a lot of the time. That's my experience. Aphrodite players up here, 100%. Toxic god, toxic players that play the god. Either they're toxic or they're terrible at the game and have no clue what they're doing and end up feeding. But generally, Afro players, especially Afro mains, are pretty toxic players. Arachne up here as well. Arachne, toxic god, toxic fanbase. Every Arachne player I meet is toxic in some way or another. Ares, probably up here. He's one of those supports where they think they're the hero of the team and that they can do everything because he has a little bit of damage, and you'll ult, and if you don't get an immediate 6-man ult on the enemy that you pull, they'll cry about it. Fairly toxic in general. Artemis players, I find Artemis players to be pretty chill actually. She's definitely one of the more chill ADCs, I feel like. Maybe because she's not really meta at all, so the people that play her are just kind of dedicated to the god and they don't really mind. I don't know, but I generally don't find Artemis players super toxic. Artio, she's up here somewhere. Obviously, I'm not doing this on toxicity of the god. I'm doing it on toxicity of the players that play the god. If it was toxicity of the god, Artio would be up here 100%. But I think probably down here. I find a lot of Artio players that BM quite a lot, but probably not on the level of these three that I have up here so far. Athena players. Athena's interesting because recently she's kind of become a lot more popular in roles outside of support, but I feel like most support players I see, most support Athena players I see try to actively prevent toxicity, to be completely honest with you. A Wheelix player is always chill. I've never met a Wheelix player that BM'd, I don't think. A Wheelix player is always super chill. Baba Yaga players, probably the same actually. I don't meet many, but the ones I have met, typically not that bad. Bacchus players definitely very chill. I've never met a Bacchus that isn't just like running around having fun and just enjoying himself. Very few toxic Bacchuses in my opinion. Bacca players are interesting. Bacca players are toxic in a different way. They're toxic in that like they run around last spamming you after they kill you and things like that. But they're not like... So I guess they're more BM than toxic. They're not really toxic players, but they're a little bit BM. So maybe I'll put them like here or something like that. Baron players, probably chill. I don't find too many like toxic Baron players, I have to say. Bastet? I just don't see Bastet straight up. Like, when was the last time you guys saw a Bastet? Because I have not seen one in literally months. I don't think I've seen one in Season 8, to be completely honest with you. Perhaps one. So I don't really know where to put Bastet. I'll probably just leave her here. I never see Bastet, to be honest. Bellona players, probably a little higher up, I would say. I'm a Bellona player myself. A lot of Bellona's emote spam, I feel like. Like, they'll just run at you, like, taunt spamming and stuff like that. But generally, they're not, like, super toxic, I wouldn't say. Cabrakan players, hella toxic, dude. Cabrakan players, it kind of comes with the god. Like, they just run at you, like, last spamming while they charge at you with the one, like, just auto-attacking over and over again because you get haste. Pretty toxic player base on Cabrakan, I would say. Camazotz, also very toxic, maybe even up here. Every Camazotz player I meet, especially Camazotz solo players, all they do is just sit there, like, they heal up and they last spam you, and then they heal up and they last spam you. That's all I get from Camazotz players in my experience. Cerberus, probably down here. I've never met a Cerberus that BMs, to be completely honest with you. Every Cerberus player I've met is very chill. Susanoo, probably here. I don't really have any strong opinions on Susanoo players. They just seem to, like, kind of do their thing. They're not super toxic, but they're not very helpful either. They just kind of do their thing. Chak players, insanely toxic. I think everyone knows this, everyone agrees with this. Every Chak player you see runs around spamming, ooh, look at the little girly man, like spamming axes at you and shit. This is probably, like, of these 5 up here, probably the most toxic. I think everyone agrees on that. Even Chak players themselves know they're toxic, dude. Changa, the god herself, very toxic. The players, honestly, not that bad. I will probably put them, like, here. I do find some Changas that BM. But I also find Changas that don't really do much either. So like here or here probably. We'll leave it there for now. Chernabog. Chernabog probably goes here. Most Chernabog players are pretty quiet. They don't really like say anything. I haven't met any that like really super BM, to be honest. Chiron, probably the same, I would say. Kronos, probably the same. Cthulhu. I do meet some kind of toxic Cthulhu players, to be honest with you. A lot of like emote spam when they're ulting and like walking at you and things like that. It's a matter of whether he's just make sure you don't lose or like prepare for some BM. Probably here, to be honest. Cuchulainn players. I don't think I've really had any like super toxic Cthulhu players, to be honest with you. I don't know if they like always chill. They're probably not always chill. I have met a few that BM, so like maybe I'll go here. Cupid players are actually pretty chill. Honestly, I know ADCs are typically like more BM than a lot of other roles, but Cupid players, I don't think I've really had any Cupid players that have like been super BM in my experience. Daji players, insanely BM, either up here or down here. Probably leave them here for now. Like Daji players last spam so much, dude. I think out of all of the gods, Daji is probably top 5 for the amount people last spam with this god, even though her last spam's not even good. Like they ult you and then kill you and then they last spam. That's like all Daji players do, I swear. Danzaburo, incredibly toxic god. I don't really play against him that much, to be honest, so I don't really have a super strong opinion, so I'll leave him here. Discordia players, I mean, inherently, Discordia players are pretty toxic. They, like, make you laugh spam and shit, and spam I'm the greatest. But that's not really a reflection on the players. I guess that's more a reflection on the god. I do find some toxic Discordias from time to time, though. Not a super large amount, but probably enough to warrant putting her here. Erlang Shen players are incredibly toxic. I'm one myself. You get a lot of last spamming Erlang Shens. A lot of last spamming Erlang Shens. I may kind of contribute to that a little bit when I like turtle cancel kill someone. Yeah, Erlang in general pretty toxic, I would say. Fafnir? There's some toxic Fafnirs for sure. But they're usually not that bad. I'll leave them here. Fenrir? Yeah, probably up here. There's a Fenrir that plays EU ranks in like high masters. He's not like a Fenrir main, he's like a Fenrir and Bacchus and something else main. Name of Bibich or Bibich, I'm not sure how you say it. Incredibly toxic player, and he plays a lot of Fenrir, so that's kind of skewed my opinion on him. He basically BMs every single game. You know, if he loses, if he starts losing early game, he'll feed, like intentionally feed. So that's kind of skewed my opinion of Fenrir, but I feel like in general, most Fenrir players are pretty toxic. Freya players are massively toxic. I've never met a Freya that doesn't get BM unless like they're winning. If they're not absolutely dominating, most Freya players will start BMing 100%. Ganesha has to be down here, right? I don't think I've met a single Ganesha that's ever BM'd anyone. It's kind of part of like the personality of the god, I guess. It attracts positive people. But in general, I've never met a Geb that's like... not a Geb, sorry. I'm thinking about where I'm going to place Geb already. I've never met a Ganesha that has been super BM, to be honest. As for Geb, probably the same. I typically don't find BM Gebs because he's typically more one of those more defensive supports. It attracts that kind of player that doesn't really BM and wants to just kind of like be the team player and win the game. Guan players. I don't really have a super strong opinion on Guan players, I don't think. Hachiman, probably the same. Hades players, very toxic. Probably here. I don't think she's quite on the level of like Freya, Chak, Camazotz style players. But in general, Hades players can be very toxic. Hebo players, yeah, once again, very toxic. All they do is like blink in through you and ult you and start last spamming. Heim players, same thing. Hell players. I feel like there's a fair few toxic Hells. Enough to put her here, I would say. Hera, I find a lot of toxic Heras, dude. I don't know what it is. But I just, in general, I find like so many toxic Heras that just like put Argus on you and start last spamming. I don't know. In my experience, a lot of toxic Hells. Hercules, obviously, everyone knows. It's similar to Chak. Every Hercules player is toxic in some way. Even myself. I will last spam the shit out of people when I play as God. Something about playing Hercules just makes you want to laugh and taunt spam people. It's just part of the god. Horus. Probably down here. I don't meet too many toxic Horus players, to be honest. They're pretty chill. Huyi. Probably the same, actually. I think they're too busy, like, their mind's preoccupied with hitting triple bounces, so they don't have, like, time to use their brain to BM people, but in general, yeah, Huyi, not too toxic. Bats is probably, like, up here. Generally, I've seen a few toxic Bats in my time. ESET. Where is ESET? ESET players, they don't really say anything, I feel like. Probably just leave them here, I think. I'm gonna have to zoom this out slightly. There we go. Izanami players, massively toxic. All they do is AFK and lane, split push, and then like when they get pinged to come over to the fight, they just say like "fuck you, team." Yeah, very toxic players. Giannis, probably up here. There's some like pretty BM Giannis players, but definitely not all of them are BM. Jingwei, in general, Jingwei players I would say stay pretty chill. The god itself is quite toxic, and I really don't like how safe she is. But I think the players in general that play Jingwei are like pretty chill. Yawn players are super annoying. Yawn players always stop you backing, I feel like. Maybe here or something, because they don't like super BM, I wouldn't say, but Yawn players, I haven't met a single like Yawn solo that doesn't stop me backing every time they possibly can by like putting a pull on me or something like that. Just in general, Yawn players just play super lame, I feel like. Kali players, very toxic. If the early game goes badly for them and you say like what the hell are you doing because like they're trying to kill people early as Kali and they're failing at it, they will get super defensive and start like screaming at you and shit. Often they do end up carrying the game, but alright, so my camera just died. You're gonna have to sit through the rest of these, about another half of the gods without my camera, unfortunately, because I've got a new like professional camera and it needs charging and things like that. Khepri, down here, like, just needless to be said, really. Like, Khepri's play that true support play style. They typically don't BM. Arthur players, up here, everyone knows this. Every Arthur player is toxic in some way. Kukulkan players, I actually find a lot of toxic Kukulkan players. I don't know what it is about the god. It shouldn't really attract toxic players, in my opinion. But in general, it just does seem to. Kumba, yeah, pretty up here, honestly. Kumba's just, like, running around last spamming and mezzing you and shit. Like, really fucking annoying. Kuzenbo players, probably up here, to be completely honest with you. We're gonna have to zoom out even further. Loki players, needless to be said, they're up here. After the rework, I feel like Loki players have gotten a little bit less toxic, but yeah, in general, Loki players are some of the most toxic players in SMITE. We all know this. It doesn't really need too much explanation. Medusa, I don't really hear much from Medusa players. They're just, like, neutral, I would say. Mercury players are generally pretty toxic. I find a lot of Mercury players that start BMing pretty frequently. Merlin, don't really hear anything from Merlin players, to be honest. They generally keep pretty quiet. Mulan, I never see Mulan, but the ones that I do see are generally quite toxic. I find a lot of last spamming Mulans, I feel like. Neath, most Neath players barely know how to play the game, and so they generally don't, like, start chatting shit. But I wouldn't say they're always chill. There are some Neaths that are, like, pretty toxic sometimes. It kind of depends, so I'll leave it there for now. Nem players, I feel like every Nem player I've ever met is chill as fuck. Generally, I don't find Nems that BM whatsoever. Like, not even any last spamming, really. Nems just, like, a pretty chill. Najjar? You do find some toxic Najjars. Like, you find a lot of them that ult you and then last spam in the middle of the ult channel. That happens a lot with Najjar players. But they're not super bad, so I'll put them, like, here or something. Nike players I find super annoying, dude. Nike players last spam all the time. Like, they ult and then start last spamming because they got out because of their ult, even though you were going to kill them because it's Nike and she's incredibly safe. And they just, like, run around spamming. It's, like, and the two as well, like, holy shit. Very toxic player base for Nike, I feel like. Nox, again, very toxic. I feel like she attracts toxic kinds of players. And also, like, they'll miss their 2-1 combo over and over again, and then when you call them out on it, they'll start, like, absolutely throwing BM at the entire team. New WoW players, there are some, for sure, but there's not, like, a huge amount. It's not, like, an overwhelming amount to where you think, oh, that's a new WoW player, they're going to be toxic, but there definitely are some toxic new WoWs out there. Odin, yeah, probably up here. A lot of Odin's just, like, spam taunt all the time. Olorun, I don't think I've met any toxic Oloruns, to be honest. In general, I think Olorun players pretty chill, I would say. Osiris players, also pretty chill. Pretty annoying god to fight against, but in general, I feel like when I find Osiris players, they're not, like, last spamming me all the time and stuff. Pele, probably neutral. I don't really think there's, like, a super large amount of toxic Peles, but there are a few. Persephone, really annoying god, but I feel like the players actually aren't too bad. I don't think I've really met many toxic Persephones in my time. Poseidon players, though. Poseidon players are very toxic. Maybe not on the level of the ones up here. Like, I don't think they're as bad as, like, Nox and Loki and, like, Hercules players and stuff like that. But in general, yeah, Poseidon players are pretty toxic. They often, like, Kraken and then last spam because they one-shot you and stuff like that. Raijin, pretty chill. I don't think I've met any, like, super BM Raijins, I wouldn't say. Rama, again, generally pretty chill. If they're last spamming, they're often just last spamming for funsies. They're not trying to, like, actually be BM with it. Ra, same thing. Rat players, there's generally some, like, pretty toxic rat players. I wouldn't say he's, like, super bad, but probably, like, here, I would say. Raven players are very chill. Scylla players can get pretty BM, especially when they got, like, multi-kills and stuff. They'll, like, run around last spamming all the time. But I haven't found any that are, like, genuinely toxic players, so I'll probably leave them here. Saket, annoying god, but pretty chill players, I would say. Set, pretty chill players. Generally, Set players, they just, like, do their thing and they do it quietly. They don't really get involved in BM from what I've seen. Scatty players get pretty toxic from time to time. More than from time to time, to be honest. Scatty players in general are, like, on the upper end of being pretty BM in games, I would say. Sobag players, similar thing. Sobag players, like, emote spam all the time, I feel like. Like, when they're ulting and they don't really have anything else to do, they'll emote spam you. When they pluck you, they'll emote spam you. Like, it's pretty bad. Sol, I do meet some toxic Sols. I actually had one in Joust a couple of days ago, actually, that was, like, genuinely super toxic. Like, actually, like, really BMing the team, not just, like, a last spammer. But I think in general, Sol's not too bad. Just recently, I've had a lot of toxic Sols, I feel like. Wukong, pretty chill. Susanoo players are up here for sure. I think everyone's going to agree with this one. Like, some of these up here you might not agree with, but I think Susanoo is one of those ones where you can't really disagree. Similar to, like, Loki and Hercules. Like, it's just, in general, Susanoo players are, like, super toxic. Like, genuinely toxic, not just last spammers. Sylvanas, probably pretty chill. I wouldn't say they try and, like, actively prevent toxicity, but they're pretty chill. Terra, I find a lot of BM Terras. I don't know why. A lot of last spammers, a lot of, like, actual genuinely BM Terras. Thana players, very BM. Probably on the lower end of this top tier, I would say. Like, maybe you could move Thana down, but I think in general, Thana players are very toxic. Mori players, I feel like Mori players think they can do everything, and then when they end up feeding, you call them out on it, and they get pretty toxic about it. So maybe we'll put it here. Thor, I don't find too many toxic Thors, I wouldn't say. Are they always chill, though? They're not really always chill. I think I'll put them in this one here. Thoth players, pretty chill, honestly. Tier players, obviously, up here. No one's going to disagree with that, right? Every tier player in the world is a toxic motherfucker. They just, like, heal up and then start last spamming you, feelers you into towers. Like, it's something else with tier. He's definitely on the upper end of this tier here. Ula players, probably, like, here, I would say. But mana players are generally pretty toxic. Vulcan players are very chill. I don't think I've met a BM Vulcan in a while. Jablanque, probably here. There's some like last spamming Jablanques, but I don't really see any that are like incredibly toxic. Xingqian, probably no real opinion on him there. Yamoja, no real opinion on Yamoja players either. Some of them can get pretty bad, but some of them are also pretty chill. Ymir players, I feel like generally never BM. I wouldn't say they try and diffuse toxicity, but I wouldn't say there's ever like any Ymir players that are super BM. Zeus's generally get quite mad. They often like get out of position, low mobility god, they die, and then they blame the team for it. Like, what the fuck, support? You should have saved me when I was like in the enemy base at 3 minutes into the game. That's like Zeus players in a nutshell. Anqui, probably a little more toxic than the average. Tsukuyomi, same thing. Gilgamesh players, probably up here. You can maybe even argue Gilgas are up here, but it's maybe just because he's so overpowered right now and they just like go 15-1, think they're gods, and then start acting arrogant and assholes. But I think we'll put him here, maybe. Morgan Le Fay players, there's a lot of variety of these right now because a lot of people are playing her because she's new and it hasn't really settled into like people who genuinely enjoy the god or the people that play her. It's like everyone's playing her, so it's kind of hard to decide. But I'll leave her here for now. You never see Tiamat, I feel like. I don't think I've seen a Tiamat since her release when everyone was playing her. Like, people played her for a couple of weeks and I haven't seen one since. So I don't really know where to put her, to be honest. I'll just put her in, like, this kind of neutral one here. But yeah, if we zoom out, that is the entire tier list. So yeah, in general, like, supports, the least toxic players. I think everyone knew that coming into this. You know, in general, supports are less toxic. There's some specific supports that can be very toxic, but in general, they're not that bad. And then up here, it's generally like assassins, warriors. It's mostly assassins and warriors, actually. I said at the start that I feel like hunter players are generally the most toxic. But that's actually not true. Given where I put these gods, it's mostly warriors and assassins. To be fair, warrior players in general are pretty BM, I would say. There's a lot of like super BM warrior players and soul enders and stuff like that. And junglers are like the most arrogant, right? Like, jungle mains are 100% for sure the most arrogant players that think they're the best and they can carry the game on their own and then they die 1v5. Solo players are also kind of like that, but jungle players are for sure the most arrogant. And then there's a few mixed in there, like Kuzenbo players is kind of just a toxic god and generally attracts that kind of player. Afro, the same thing. But yeah, that's the entire tier list. Please don't be offended if I put your god in like super toxic. I'm sure you're not a toxic person. I'm just generalizing for a bit of funsies making this tier list. I mean, I main some of the gods up here. You know, King Arthur's up here. He's probably my favorite god. Hercules, also one of my favorites. I like Tyr. But I'm just talking about, like, in general. So yeah, let me know what you think about this. I'm sure you guys have, like, different experiences, so your opinions will be very much different on this. You might have seen, like, some super toxic Khepri players in your time, and you might have only met a few Thanas and they've all been super chill. I don't know. But in general, this is my experience with, like, how toxic some of the player base are for these gods. Some of these are, like, pretty objective and indisputable, like Tyr players and Herc players. They're pretty infamous for being very BM. And like Ganesha players, have you ever met a BM Ganesha? Let me know down below, because I definitely haven't in my whole time playing this game. I've never met a Ganesha that's been like super BM. The most I've ever seen from a Ganesha is like a bit of excessive last spam. But yeah, let me know what kind of tier list you want me to do in the future. You know, obviously I can do meta tier lists and stuff once I get back into the swing of things and get a handle on the meta. Maybe I'll do one for mid-season. But I do enjoy doing tier lists like this where they're not meta tier lists. They're just kind of like about some arbitrary thing about the gods. I do enjoy these kind of ones. So if you have any ideas for them, let me know down below and I'll probably make those in the future. But yeah, I'll catch you guys in another one later on. Have a great day and peace out, you nerds.